Canon just discontinued their last flagship DSLR after 37 years of production. Does that mean your dream of buying a DSLR is dead? Or did the industry just create the biggest used gear opportunity in camera history? Today, I'll explain DSLRs versus mirrorless cameras like you're 5 years old. By the end, you'll understand exactly which system fits your shooting style, your budget, and whether the death of DSLRs is a tragedy or the best thing that ever happened to your wallet. Most people think the difference is just about the mirror. And yeah, that's literally what the name says. But what that missing mirror actually does to your entire shooting experience is wild. A DSLR uses a physical mirror that flips up every time you take a photo. That mirror reflects light from the lens up into an optical viewfinder. You're seeing the actual world through glass and prisms. No screen, no digital processing, just pure light bouncing into your eyeball. Mirrorless cameras rip that whole system out. No mirror, no optical viewfinder, no mechanical flip-flop happening inside the body. Instead, light hits the sensor directly, and that sensor feeds a live image to an electronic viewfinder. You're watching a tiny TV show of the world instead of seeing reality itself. Sounds worse, right? But here's what you gain. The camera becomes smaller because you don't need space for a mirror box. The autofocus becomes faster because the sensor reads focus points constantly, and you see your final exposure before you even press the shutter. If your photo's going to be too dark, you'll know instantly. DSLRs can't do that. Now here's where DSLRs strike back. Battery life. Why? Because that electronic viewfinder is constantly powered. The sensor is always on. The screen is always feeding you information. This matters if you're shooting a wedding, traveling without easy charging access, or just hate swapping batteries constantly. Mirrorless shooters carry 3 or 4 batteries minimum. DSLR shooters carry 1 and forget about it. But let's talk autofocus, because this is where mirrorless technology became legitimately better than physics should allow. Modern mirrorless systems can track a person's eye across the frame while they're moving. They can lock onto animals, birds, cars, motorcycles. They can recognize faces and prioritize focus on specific people. DSLRs use phase detection autofocus that's fast, but limited to certain focus points. Mirrorless cameras use the entire sensor for autofocus. That means thousands of focus points, covering almost the whole frame. If you shoot sports, wildlife, or your kids' soccer games, mirrorless autofocus feels like cheating. The camera does half the work for you. We're talking about artificial intelligence that predicts where your subject will move next. That's not an upgrade. That's a different universe of capability. Then there's video. If you care about video at all, this decision is already over. Mirrorless cameras dominate video because the sensor is always exposed and reading data. You get clean 4K, often 6K or 8K. You get advanced autofocus during recording. You get features like focus peaking and zebra stripes that show exactly what's sharp. That means slower autofocus and clunky performance. If you're a hybrid shooter who wants great photos and great video, mirrorless is your only answer. Here's what most people miss: lens selection. DSLRs have been around for decades. That means thousands of affordable used lenses are floating around eBay, KEH, and local camera shops. You can buy a Canon 50mm f1.8 for $125, a Nikon 35mm f1.8 for $150. Third-party brands like Sigma and Tamron made incredible glass for DSLRs. You can grab that cheap right now because everyone's dumping their old gear. Mirrorless lenses? They're new. They're expensive. A comparable mirrorless lens often costs double or triple the DSLR version. Yes, mirrorless lenses are often sharper and lighter because they're designed with modern tech. But if you're on a budget, the DSLR ecosystem is a gold mine. Now check this out: weight and size. A full-frame DSLR might weigh 800 grams. That sounds huge until you realize the lenses weigh the same either way. The body savings matter for travel and street photography. But if you're shooting with pro glass, you're carrying weight regardless. Don't let anyone tell you mirrorless makes your whole kit feather light. It helps. It's not magic. Here's the part that seriously affects your wallet: long-term support. Canon and Nikon have both announced they're done developing new DSLRs. Sony hasn't made a DSLR in years. The entire industry is focused on mirrorless now. That means firmware updates for DSLRs will eventually stop. New lens releases will slow down or disappear completely. If you buy a DSLR today, you're buying into a system that's being sunsetted. It'll work great for years, maybe decades. but you're not riding the wave of innovation anymore. You're holding on to a format that's frozen in time. For some people, that's perfect. The camera works, the images are beautiful, and they don't need the newest thing. But if you want access to the latest autofocus AI and long-term software support, Mirrorless is the only path forward. Let's talk low-light performance. This one's more complicated than the internet admits. Modern mirrorless cameras have better sensor technology because they're newer. They handle high ISO noise better. But that's not because they're mirrorless, it's because they're newer. Compare a 2015 DSLR to a 2024 mirrorless camera, and yeah, mirrorless wins easily. But a 2020 DSLR versus a 2020 mirrorless camera, the difference is tiny. Sensor tech matters more than the mirror. What mirrorless does give you is live exposure preview in dark environments. You can see exactly how noisy your image will be before shooting. That's genuinely helpful. But don't let anyone tell you DSLRs are useless in low light. They're not. Here's what you need to understand. The optical viewfinder experience is real. Looking through a DSLR viewfinder feels different. There's no lag. There's no screen flicker. There's no digital noise in your view. You see the world as it is, not as a sensor interprets it. Some photographers love that connection. They say it feels more human, more intentional, more like actual photography. Others say it's outdated, and seeing your final exposure in real time matters more. Neither is wrong. It's pure preference. But if you've never shot with an optical viewfinder, you might be dismissing something you'd actually love. That direct optical connection creates a different relationship with your subject. It changes how you think about composition and timing. This matters because the camera you choose shapes how you shoot for years. It affects how much you spend on lenses. It affects how often you charge batteries. It affects whether you can track your dog running through a field. It affects whether your camera gets software updates in 2030 or stays frozen in 2024. It affects how much your gear weighs in your bag on a 12-hour travel day. These aren't just specs. They're the daily texture of your photography life. They're the difference between missing a shot and nailing it. So here's the breakdown. DSLRs give you optical viewfinders, amazing battery life, and access to decades of affordable lenses. Mirrorless cameras give you faster autofocus, better video, live exposure previews, and every major manufacturer's future development. DSLRs are being phased out, but they still work beautifully. Mirrorless is the industry standard now, but it costs more and eats batteries. If you're a pure photographer who loves that optical feel and wants cheap glass, DSLR makes sense. If you shoot video, need cutting-edge autofocus, or want long-term support, go mirrorless. So here's the real question. Would you rather buy yesterday's professional technology at bargain prices or pay premium for tomorrow's features that might be outdated themselves in 5 years?